Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, and what you're about to watch is a live sit and talk, not live as in live broadcast, but in front of a live studio audience. And we did this at Dark Sphere over in London. This is while my wife and I, Holly and I, were on vacation over in the UK. We decided to have a meetup and do this live sit and talk. So it's at Dark Sphere. We want to thank everybody at Dark Sphere. You can check them out. I'll put a link in the video description below. I believe it's darksphere.co.uk is their website. They are a gaming store and a big club, and they also do mail order. And so it's we're really appreciative of everything they did. So this one is rather long. The audio should be good enough. There was some noise. There was a train that would go overhead and all that, so please excuse the noise. And also, I just want to put a quick apology here to my wife, because as you see at the beginning of the video, I said that if people had questions for her, and I told them I would like set aside some time that we would do like the questions to my wife, but then I got caught up in the excitement of everything and I totally forgot. So I'm sorry, Holly. Please forgive me. She's totally fine. She's not mad or anything, but I just wanted to point that out because you're going to see that I say, and later on we can ask her questions, and then we never actually get to that. And I thought that would have been a lot of fun, but it was just so, there's so much energy, and then there's also a lot of noise, and so it was distracting. So anyways, let's just get on to it. Go ahead, enjoy it, and happy wargaming.
Well, hey everybody, I'm Matthew from MiniWargaming, and welcome to another sit and talk. I don't dance my sit. So I'm not sure what to call this, a live sit and talk, but it's only live for you guys. We can call it Sit and Talk 3D. I've heard a couple of people said it was like a Sit and Talk 3D or Matthew 3D, which is great. Unfortunately, right away, as most of you already know, Dave was not able to make it. I'm not sure if people watching the video will know this. His brother has been battling brain cancer. He's had brain tumors for years now, and he went into critical care months ago, and he's just been in kind of in a bad state. And Dave's given me permission to talk about this, obviously. And unfortunately, on Sunday, they got a phone call that said the doctor thought he only had hours to live, and so he canceled his trip to be with his family. No news as of yet. As of when you watch the video, I have no idea. I don't know if he'll post it or anything. I don't think he would. But he wanted to be here, but unfortunately, it did not work out. So you're stuck with just me. No, it's just a sit and talk. It's not a mini wargaming panel as we had originally thought we were going to do. But so the format, the way this is going to work, of course, I'm not going to be reading your questions from the last sit and talk. Those ones I'll answer in my next sit and talk where I'm actually back in the office. I'm going to be answering everybody's questions here, as many as I can get through, I don't know, in an hour. What time is it right now? Because I can't see the timer on the camera. Sorry? 6:15? All right, I'll keep this nearby just so I can keep an eye on the time. We'll just see. We'll see how this works out. And so, like I said before, the etiquette for this, of course, is just ask a question. I'll pass around the mic. When you're holding the mic, try not to touch or anything, otherwise you'll be making noises. Don't breathe too heavily close to it when you're not talking, and we'll be fine. Other than that, let's just start asking questions. Oh, and of course, I'm here with my beautiful wife, Holly, and our 6-month-old, Lizzie, just off camera. Or she's just on camera, I think. But we'll find out when we actually look at it afterwards. And so, if you have, we'll have a little segment that we'll call "Wife of a Wargamer." If you want to ask her any questions, you'll be more welcome to do that. If you come up, if I pass you the if the mic gets past you and you want to ask her a question, just say that you're addressing her. We'll get her to come over here, and she can answer some questions too. I don't mind. I don't mind sharing the spotlight. Okay, so who's first? You got a question? All right. So you got to say your name, because I always have to know the person's name.
Sam Charles. I'm from 1066 Wargaming, and there is one common question I have to say is, have you been to a pub?
Have I been to a pub? Not yet, I don't think. We walked into one, but then we were just looking for a full restaurant, but it turned out to be a pub. We don't drink. As some of you already know, my religious affiliation is I'm a Mormon, and in our Mormon tenets, we don't drink. So I won't be visiting pubs to drink, but I do hear that they do serve good food. So no, I have not yet. So thank you, Sam. This first one is a religious question. I forgot to give the disclaimer. Disclaimer. If you get easily offended by politics or religion, or wargaming or business or other personal questions, do not watch this show, because I might talk about it as I just did. Go ahead. Sorry, what's
Hi,
your name?
my name's Will.
Will?
Just wondering, do you have any sense of responsibility as
Not at all.
a major YouTube or wargaming thing for getting people into the hobby? For instance, I watched your videos, got into War Machine as a result. So is there some sense of responsibility you have, and should those companies thank you in a monetary form?
I see what you're getting at. Yes, definitely. No, that's a really good question, because over the years of us doing mini wargaming, we've tried to work with various companies. Games Workshop, of course, in our early days of naivety, we of course tried to contact them. Companies like Privateer Press, lots of them actually, thinking that they would be happy to work with an online presence, just like every other industry does. But we haven't generally found that in this industry. One exception being Corvus Belli with Infinity. They've really worked well with us, sending us miniatures and giving us like early access to things so that we could review and do news and battle reports. Do I feel that they should? I think in a way, yes and no. I say yes because that's common in other industries, that if you cover their material. But at the same time, you could view it as like a news outlet, and news outlets don't generally get paid to cover certain things. I say no because we are making money off of it, and since we're making money off of generally somebody else's IP, by reviewing it, by playing games, we're already getting a benefit of the work that they do to bring that product to the market. But it's funny because I do think from surveys that we've run over the years that there have been a lot of people that have started or returned to wargaming because of the videos that we do. But like I said, that's growing our market as well. So it would be nice. I would love it if Games Workshop all of a sudden contacted us and said, we're going to send you products that we can advance. And we signed NDAs and all that kind of stuff so that we didn't release anything before the actual days. And then we get them all painted up and we'd release battle reports for it. I think that they would really benefit from that, not just with us, but like with any online source. And just kind of encouraging that. But they've been kind of remiss in using the internet and social media in that way. So it's unfortunate that they don't. But thankfully, we've been able to still build a business around what we've been doing. So thank you for the question.
My name's Alex. How do you feel in a situation like this when you come halfway around the world and you're surrounded by like 50 people who kind of spend 2 or 3 hours a day sort of technically in your company or getting to know you, and then you come halfway around the world and you're surrounded by these complete strangers who know you really well and sort of possibly consider you like a friend in a kind of... and you're completely removed from that.
It is strange. We've been doing it for a while now, so I've had several instances where I've come across people who are, I would use the word fans. I like to refer to everybody as viewers and not fans, because not everybody's a fan. You might be a viewer without being like this huge fan. And also there's this connotation when I say fan that there's like some sort of structure of me being elevated above. Like when you think of like actors and actresses or boy bands and the response they get to other people. That I have seen that sometimes, and it's funny to me that happens, because we're just a small business of a handful of guys making videos that we post on our channel. Like if you could come and see our offices, like it's not that big. It's just that we have like 3,000 or 4,000 square feet, and we have studios and offices and all of that. So and it's just like we have 8 or 9 employees, so it's not a humongous company. Like it's really, if you think about like the game designers of Games Workshop, you think that they would elicit more of that reaction, or Privateer Press or whatever. But it comes with the territory of course, being in social media and having a YouTube channel. So it's a new age thing, that's for sure. That the average person being able to obtain any level of exposure, I guess, is very new to the past 10 years. So it's odd, but I'm getting used to it. Let me just put it that way. I found it more strange the other day when we were back home and we went into a mall close to where we live, and the guy that served me recognized me. That was strange. Because I know everybody in the area who's into the game. I thought I did. And so I find it stranger when somebody close to home recognizes me from the videos. So when I travel and then I invite people to come together, that's a little less strange, but still odd, I would say. So thank you for the question. Anybody else? All right, pass it. Oh, or right here. Wherever it goes, we'll get back to you.
Hi Matt, my name's Chris. What's your opinion on relics in 40k? So sort of how they impact the game, and you know what you like to do with them as well.
Relics are weird. They're just a strange gameplay thing. I like them. I find them. I use the Tyranid ones all the time in my Tyranid games. The other armies I don't use them as much because I'm not as familiar with them. But I know I use the Tyranid relics all the time. Certain ones. They're a strange thing because a lot of the thing I like about 40k is that they allow you to collect an army that is not really specific to anything. Like you can be a Space Marine chapter of your own making, or you can collect an Ultramarines chapter. With Tyranids, you can make your own Hive Fleet, or you could do one of their Hive Fleets. Same with the Orcs. Pretty much every single race in 40k, they have their kind of factions, but they let you have this license to create your own. When you introduce these relics are very specific in the history. It's like there's only one of these. So like, why does my Hive Fleet have a Norn crown? Like, why are they so special that they would have that relic? So they don't make sense to me in the fluff or the lore aspect of the game, especially when Tyranids have them. It's like this special Norn crown is only known to be in one per army. It doesn't make any sense. Like everybody, if there's something good, you know the Tyranids are going to use it over and over and over again. Everybody gets a Norn crown. But so it doesn't make sense fluff-wise. Gameplay-wise, I think it's fine because they give you these slightly more powerful or very powerful items, but they're only one use in your army. It's kind of goes along the same vein of anything that's unique, and like when you can collect something that's unique in your army, like Tigurius in the Space Marine Librarian Tigurius, the Chief Librarian Tigurius. You can get that model, but he's very specific. You know, this is one guy in a countless trillions. Even amongst Space Marines, there's tons and tons of Space Marines, and so for you to be able to collect a specific guy, I think that's cool. But then you get people in the gameplay wise, they try to bring in this thing that doesn't quite make sense. Like, why would you have your 1,500 point army consist of the Chief Librarian of the Ultramarines and maybe the actual chapter master himself as well, and it's a 1,500 point game? Like, it's fun. It's fine for gameplay, but fluff wise, it's kind of strange. So I don't have a problem with them. I think they're fine. Some of them are overpowered, but you know, that's a general 40k issue. That's not a relic issue, just having overpowered and underpowered stuff. But I do like them overall for gameplay, especially the Tyranid ones that let me do the more powerful things and make my army a little more effective than it actually is. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. If you were to attend a 40k themed wedding, what would you dress as?
Oh! Are you doing a 40k themed wedding? Maybe?
I'd love to wear like a Harlequin outfit underneath a wedding dress.
That would be pretty cool. I'm glad you didn't choose other ones. What would I dress as? Well, that's tough. I guess I'd have to clarify that. Do I have access to unlimited funds and people who are really good at making stuff, or am I making it myself?
You'd have like everything. So
Okay,
you could
okay.
do the whole, make yourself a 6 foot, whatever, Space Marine if you wanted to.
Well, I'm already 6 feet, but I think they're more like 8 feet. The Space Marine ones are pretty cool. If we could find some way to make me one of the Tyranid creatures, I would choose to come as probably either a warrior or a broodlord. A broodlord would be really cool, but it has to be better than just like a prop up arms with my arms thing. Like I want some animatronic arms that I can control with my eyes or something. And if we're really going all out, but if we're more realistic, yeah, it can just be propped up with my arms, like you see the guys do with the forearmed. What's that one comic book guy? Or maybe he's from Mortal Kombat. Yes, thank you. And so I saw people with costumes and they just basically string the arms together, so then they move the ones that moves the other. It's better than just having them floppy on the side. So I'd say a broodlord. I'd have to be a broodlord. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I just wanted to ask, you said that you won't be using the current detachment anymore, but I think if you would use it only against the lists that are very powerful, like Elder, New Detachment, and stuff like that, like tournament lists,
Right.
then that would be fine, because I watched a recent battle report with Necrons, they felt very weak.
Yeah, the Decurion, our official unofficial policy is use Decurion. We actually said this. We use Decurion when the opponent can take it. The problem is, and this becomes a general issue with 40K, and it's not just Necrons. The Necrons really highlighted it because it was ridiculous. Like the Eldar, I don't think have gotten as much hate as the Necrons did. I think the Necrons kind of warmed up everybody to the idea of like, now we're just going to go nuts. And so when the Eldar came out, yeah, it had a lot of hate, but I felt like the Necrons got even more because they were the first to do it that badly. Like it was reminiscent of a lot of other broken codexes in the past. But this is an issue I have found generally with 40K, is that obviously it's not balanced. And it's been in the past, like I remember the Leaf Blower lists of 5th edition, when it was just an Imperial Guard player bringing all tanks and transports. Now anybody can take that list now, but back then that was the list, and it was called the Leaf Blower list because you just destroyed your opponent with it. And that was an issue back then because people didn't have as much anti-armor as they had. And then they introduced Flyers and Grey Knights, and everything was, there's been problems with that all the time. So our policy, what I try to teach our employees, and for the most part they do, is we try to tailor our lists. Yes, we tailor our lists to match our opponent. And I think that will often give us a better game than, and unfortunately most people don't have this option, because if you just come to a club, you bring which army you have. You've got your 2,000 points. Maybe you don't bring 10,000, you don't have access to 30,000 points in the back warehouse that you can swap out guys to make a list that'll better match what you're up against. So we have the advantage of doing that. We try to have larger collections so we can bring more variety. But I think the answer to many of the problems with 40K has to be from the players, because Games Workshop isn't fixing the game balance-wise. I think the game's fantastic. I love the models. But they're not fixing it balance-wise. So the players have to work together to make a better gaming experience, which is unfortunate. You want to be able to always just bring your A game and your best list and then throw it up against somebody else's best list. If you're going to do that, you got to play War Machine. That's really the option there. Is you got to get into a game like War Machine where they really focus on kind of a tournament style tactics thing. For 40K, it's a lot more permission based. You talk to your opponent beforehand. What are you going to play? Are you going to bring Flyers? Are you going to bring Super Heavies? Are you bringing a Decurion detachment? Like, you ask those questions and you should expect to get answered. And that's what I do with my battle reports. So when I'm emailing back and forth, I ask them if they have anything spectacular. And then if they show up with a vanilla Space Marine list, then I'm like, phew, got to bring that list down. And they show up with an Eldar list, and yeah, I'll bring a Necron Decurion. So
I think Steve just failed there. He just underestimated the opponent's list.
Yeah, it's tough because you're never going to get it right, because you have the dice. You could do a mirror matchup of two armies that are exactly the same, and whoever gets first turn often will have a huge advantage. And then you have dice, and you could end up having a slaughter one-sided, and it could be a 100% mirror matchup. And so the dice are going to throw in that more imbalance, which is what makes the game fun, of course, because you get those spectacular, awful and awesome moments. So, but yeah, the latest stuff with Necron Decurion and now the Eldar have really started to force us to address that more. And but you're always going to have that. You're always going to have the win-at-all-cost gamers, the power gamers, who show up with their super powerful list, and you're going to roll your eyes and want to go home. But that's part of the hobby. We have to learn to work together as gamers to make a better gaming experience.
My name is Andrew, and at the beginning when you had your mini wargaming store, what made you realize to actually start the Vault?
Okay, so for those that couldn't hear that, at the beginning when we had our store, what made me realize we wanted to start the Vault? Back then, before mini wargaming, I had an internet marketing business, and that business was a consulting business where I was teaching people how to advertise online and trying to help businesses gain more exposure to their businesses through the internet. One of the things that was kind of catching some steam back then, and this is 9 years ago now, were membership sites. Were sites where people would, obviously, just like the Vault, they subscribe a monthly or yearly or quarterly, whatever it happened to be, to get access to some sort of paid content. And so that was working really well in other markets, and I saw that was working really well. And so when we were building our business in the store, we've never really made a lot of money with the store. We sold a lot of product with the store. We got up to the point where we were turning over a lot of stuff, but it was hard to make money with it because of the margins, because of the overhead and everything else like that. And so we were like, we want to experiment with different things. And so that's when I'm like, well, let's try a membership site. And then we had to throw around different ideas. Well, what would a membership site have? And it actually, I don't know if you remember, but it started off that you got access to our videos 3 months before everybody else did. We'd actually delay our videos going out for 3 months, and that was the vault. And so, obviously, then it wasn't really popular until we actually made exclusive content for the vault. So it was we were just experimenting. We were trying to figure out how mini wargaming was going to really make money, and that was just one of the many things that we tried, and it happened to gain traction, and now it's where it is today. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Dave. Speaking of which, what's your favorite Mark of Dave thing you've seen?
I've watched him do entire armies where to explain his army, he has to say counts as. It's like, I can't remember one in particular, but I remember instances where it's like, okay, so here's my list. Okay, these Havocs, who have missile launchers, count as having plasma cannons. Then we've got these Chaos Space Marines. They're going to be Plague Marines, and they're going to be side of this Rhino. It doesn't show any weapons, but it has a Stormbolter. Oh, and it has the Dozer Blade as well. And it was hilarious to watch. He tries to stay away from that as much as he can now. It's become a running joke. And now, but he's tried to collect. That's why he has 30,000 points of chaos, is because he tries to have access to as much, and so that he's not. You've got to Mark of Dave some stuff, right? There's just too many options. But I just remember watching it. I think it was a game that I played against him, and I was filming him talking about his army, and it was just like 3/4 of it weren't what they looked like. And this was years ago, before we had our larger collections of miniatures. But I remember just laughing. And it was like this. Oh, but this. Oh, but that's totally this. And this. Well, those are that. And this, you don't see it, but. And by the end of it, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to keep track of all that. So yeah. But he's gotten a lot better. But now he's owns it now. Mark of Dave. He likes it. So. Oh, you got one behind you.
Hello, my name's John. You said in the past that you don't want to build up the business and sell it at some point.
I do or don't?
You said you didn't want to do that at one point. Maybe you're going to announce something.
Okay.
But I wondered if that's the case, do you see it as a family business, and given your family's here, do you see it being passed down the generations?
I don't ever remember saying that, because I've always in my mind wanted to create a business that was sellable. Do I want it to be a family business? I'll be honest and say no, because Dave and I are partners. And let me tell you right now, if you want to start a business, and I'll explain this, it's going to sound bad at first, don't do a partnership. That's a blanket statement. Obviously, it's worked for us, and it's been great. But I've had partnerships in the past that have failed because one person doesn't pull their weight. Now, thankfully, somehow, the relationship between Dave and I has worked perfectly. We're polar opposites, if you haven't noticed that. We are opposites in so many ways. Like, in almost every way, we are opposites. And that has worked phenomenally well. Like a marriage. That's how I always relate it. Like, I spend almost as much time with him as I do with my wife, because we're working 40 hours a week. And heck, I might even spend more time with him sometimes. And you have to work on that relationship just as much. And so, let me get to where my point was going. And so when I think of a family business, that means that whoever inherits it has to get along as well. And that becomes less likely when you're not the ones that have chosen it to begin with. So if all of a sudden my son and his son get into it, and if they don't agree, all of a sudden their fathers have to take sides. And so I really don't want to. Like, if one of them wants to buy the whole business, that's great. But what we want to do, the goal, which we don't know yet if it's possible, because this is still a new business. Like, we're almost on our 8th year, but really, when you look at how much we've changed, like the different things we've done, this phase of the business is only 2 or 3 years old, where what we're doing right now is our main focus. And so what I hope to be the case is that by the time we're ready to retire, we've built a business where it's not just Dave and I, where there's a whole cast, there's a large number of people making videos, and you might be there for a couple of your favorites, just like any kind of TV show or movie kind of thing, where you have your favorites, you want to see them, you're sad to see them go, but you don't stop watching the channel overall, usually, because there's usually enough other people that you're interested in. And if that's the case, that is a thing that you can take and you can say, buy this, and you'll continue to make money with it, because nothing changes except a couple of the actors, who by that point will have slowly phased themselves out to the point where nobody even sees them anymore, if we're ever planning on selling. Now, we're talking 30 years from now, because we still have a long ways to go with this, so we're not making any plans to sell right now. We're just trying to build a business that could potentially be sold. Now, the other alternative is that it doesn't ever work that way, that we can't get it big enough to make it so that it's about a lot of other people and not just focused on the two of us. Now, don't get me wrong. Our other employees, people love them, but the majority of views still come through what Dave and I make. And so if we can't ever do that, then it'll just kind of continue the way it is, and we'll just have to kind of keep setting aside money for retirement, and then one day either probably sell the business for a lot less, because once you remove the thing that's drawing in the audience the most, it's obviously going to make less money, but they're still going to make some money. There's some value there, but it won't be enough necessarily to retire on. So that's kind of what we have to do. We have to plan for retirement as if we can or cannot sell the business, because it's that big, whether we ever do retire. Because who knows what the economy of the way it is today. Retirement could be a thing of the past, and everybody just works till they're dead. But we might like that too, who knows. So yeah, so a family business, no, I have no interest, but I do want to try to build a business that is sellable. That is definitely a goal.
It's interesting you said that about not building a partnership, because I started a business a couple of years ago as a partnership, so it's working out okay for me.
Is it working?
So, yeah,
okay, great. It's tough because if you think about how many businesses already fail, and then you add in that kind of factor of a partner who could be another reason that it fails, especially when that partner is a friend. Dave and I we grew up together. If it didn't work out and somebody did something that the other person thought caused them to financially fail, that could cause obviously some tension. And we've gone through our ups and downs. We've had to treat our relationship, like I said, just like a marriage, where you have to keep an eye on things, make sure that you're communicating really well. So it's a lot of work. Now in this case, he's the reason the business has succeeded, because I was ready to throw in the towel 3 or 4 times in the first couple of years. Like I remember in the first year, there was one point where we came to where I'm like, you know what, I don't think this is working. But he wanted it so desperately to work that he's like, I'll continue, because for the first while, we weren't making any money. Let me just put it that way. And he wanted it so desperately to work that he was willing to continue with that kind of lifestyle just to make sure it worked. And then we went for a few more months, and then I was like, you know what, this isn't work. We're not making any money. Or the money we are making is not coming to us, it's going everywhere else. And there was several times where I was actually the leading factor in trying to shut down the business, because I didn't think it was going to work, because it was a total big unknown back then. So if it wasn't for his resilience in pushing me, we wouldn't have the business as it was today. So you might be wondering, why would I discourage partnerships? It's because I've seen the majority of them have a harder time than that. So I figure we've been really lucky with that. But partnerships can work, obviously. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying that if you have a choice and you can bring all the assets and the knowledge and experience to the business, then just incorporate by yourself, and then you can hire a good staff to help you out with that. So, all right, who else? Oh, we got one down here. Can you pass it down? All right, now speak up nice and loudly.
I'm Alex.
Alex?
What was your very first army?
My very first army? Well, it depends what you count. Because when I was a teenager, we accidentally played a tabletop war game and we didn't even know it. We were playing BattleTech. Back, we actually had the little paper cards that the game came with, and you put them in the slots, and they went on that, and it came with the hex map. Dave and I loved that game. So technically, my first army, we didn't really collect armies with that though. It kind of came with good guys and bad guys, the Inner Sphere and the clans, for anybody who remembers that or still plays it. I know there's still, the BattleTech is still around. So technically that would be my first, but if you're thinking about actual, like what we talk about where you buy and you paint, then it was a goblin army for Lord of the Rings. So that's when that's that fateful day when I walked into the Games Workshop in Burlington in Ontario, walked right in, saw Warhammer plastered everywhere, turned around, and I was like, this is not for me, because Warhammer is for nerds, and I'm only this much of a nerd, but Warhammer nerds, they're way up here. They're a whole other class of nerd, and this is not for me. I started to walk out, and then there got, as some of you might be familiar with the story, a little guy, about 2 feet tall, really probably about 4.5, 5 feet tall, maybe 5.5, but 6'2". He looks a short guy, named Spencer, spunky guy with a lot of energy, comes up to me and is like, hey! And I'm like, I'm not really interested in Warhammer. He's like, do you like Lord of the Rings? And I'm like, I love Lord of the Rings. And Holly was with me. This is before we had kids or anything, so we had a lot of time, and maybe, no, we didn't have money, but we spent it. We thought we did, spent it anyways. And he came up to me, he's like, do you like Lord of the Rings? I'm like, yeah. So he takes me to the back of the room, where the Lord of the Rings stuff is. It doesn't get any central location, of course. And he shows me his elf army, and I fall in love with it because I'm a huge Middle-earth fan. And so he shows me this army, and I'm like, I gotta have that. So I walked out with about $150 of stuff. Got the Battle for Moria, or Mines of Moria set, and a bunch of paints and stuff. Within like 3 months, I'd spent, should I tell them? $3,000 on new and used miniatures. And that's when I realized that I could probably save money by opening a business, and we started mini wargaming a month later. So my very first army was a horribly painted goblin army. I wish I still had it. I sold it because it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Like thick paint, 3 colors. I thought dry brushing was the way to go for everything, and it was bad. I used plastic glue to fill gaps because the one troll had this big gap right here, and I asked him, plastic glue will do. He's like, yeah, it should. So I'm like, and it didn't do it. It was awful. But yeah, I had a big goblin army, probably about 50 goblins, some trolls, the drums. It was a lot of fun, and that's how we got into the hobby, was Lord of the Rings. 40K Tyranids. As soon as I'm like, okay, no, we started mini wargaming, and I'm like, okay, Lord of the Rings is not the popular one. I figured that out really quickly. You can get a White Dwarf magazine, and it's like 3 pages of Lord of the Rings, and the rest is 40K and fantasy. I go to the stores, very little Lord of the Rings in the local stores, and so I'm like, I don't think this is the most popular of the games. We might want to cover the most popular of the games. We want to try to make money with this. And so we're like, okay, we got to play 40K then. And so then I looked at it, and I'm a StarCraft fan, or at least the original StarCraft. I played tons, and Zerg was my favorite. And so I saw the Tyranids, and I was kind of upset by them. These aliens holding their guns like they're from the 80s. And I bought them anyways because they had the gameplay style I was looking for. And I love them. I love the Tyranid fluff. I think the models look ridiculous. I'm used to them now, so I think they look cool. But I wish that they could take the StarCraft Zerg and make that the Tyranids, but throw away the Zerg lore, because that's awful now, and plug in the Tyranid. So if we had Zerg models with Tyranid lore, that's like the ultimate army in the universe for any game. It's just the best enemy ever, unless Games Workshop screws them up with a retcon or something later on, which you never know, they might. Then I'll just play Necrons. But yeah, 40K is Tyranids, Fantasy, Tomb Kings, War Machine, Khador, Infinity, Shock Army of Acontecimento. That's Pan-Oceanian if you play Infinity. X-Wing, I had everything. You don't really collect an army for X-Wing. Any other games I'm missing that I play? I think that's all I play. Dark Potential, I was, if I had to pick a favorite one out of that, it would be the either the Corporation or the Reclaimers. More Reclaimers than Corporation, but I don't play that anymore, so. Thank you for your question. Oh, we got a hand up back here. Nice and loud because you're at the back.
Liam.
Sorry, what was your name?
Liam.
Liam.
I was just wondering, if you had to equate modern-day religious beliefs to the armies and factions in 40K...
Oh, no!
who would you say is what religion?
Oh, man. Okay. Skip the next 5 minutes if you will be offended by religious stuff. Well, obviously the Imperium is drawn heavily from Catholicism. I'm not trying to say Catholicism is in any way like the Imperium, because that would be awful. I'm just saying that obviously the architecture, even their whole theology, is drawn heavily from Christianity and Catholicism and that kind of stuff. Dark Age Christianity, obviously. So yeah, there's obviously that one. Tau, there's obviously a communist kind of feel to that one. I don't know if you'd claim that as a religion, but I don't know which religion kind of pushes communism. And please don't answer that question if there is one. Tyranids, definitely Mormons, because they're out. Because they're knocking on your door. And they won't stop until everybody is one of them. So we had to do that one. I'll refrain from saying which I think the orcs might be. I don't know if I have any others than that. I'm sorry. Most of the other religions just kind of like a lot of Christian religions, like a lot of the Protestant religions, they're drawn from Catholic stuff, So they as much as they have different beliefs, they'll draw a lot of kind of similar culture and stuff. A lot of actually even architecture and a lot of churches will draw from the English Gothic, what we kind of think as Catholic architecture. So that's kind of the Imperium really has the monopoly on looking like a religious organization. So I think I'll stop there. I think that's far enough. It's a great question though.
Hi Matthew, I'm Keith.
Hi Keith.
What percentage of your viewers are from the UK?
Oh, good
Club
question.
members?
If I had to guess off the top of my head, because it changes, I would say about 40 to 45%. No, actually that might be Europe. So UK specifically, they're number 2 on our list of countries. United States being number 1. I'm not sure why United States is number 1, whether that's a cultural thing or there's more Americans in UK? I guess that's true. How many people live in the UK?
60 million.
Oh, okay. Well, that would explain it. There's like 5 times as many of them. So there we go. Market research complete. Yeah, so United States is number 1, UK is number 2, and then actually after that, I think Canada's number 3. Because then you go into the less English-speaking countries. There's all sorts of European countries that watch us. If you take Europe, you take about 45%. So it's a good chunk there. The UK, I would wager a guess at around 30 to 35%. So a good third of our viewers are from the UK, which makes sense when you consider, as much as the United States has a much larger population, it's a lot more sparse. And this hobby doesn't work well as sparse. You need a critical mass of population and players for it to kind of become something. Otherwise, it just dies off. Somebody might discover it, want to get into it, go back to where they live, and try to get people into it, and it doesn't work, and so it dies off. But if they get into it and come back to London, no problem. They're a new gamer for sure, and they might even draw in a couple new people. So you get that critical mass. So I think per capita, you'd probably get more UK people watching us than Americans because of that reason. But then at the same time, we get a lot of comments of people saying, I don't get to play because I'm nowhere near a club. And so this is how I kind of enjoy the hobby, as I watch your battle reports. And I get that, because I love watching StarCraft battle reports, even though I don't play, because you have to be all in with that game. Otherwise, you're just going to get destroyed. But I like watching it. It's like watching sports kind of thing. You don't have to play the sport to really enjoy watching it. So we get a bit of both. But yeah, about a third of them, I would say, are from the UK. All right. Over there.
Hi there, Matt. Jason from Welcome to UK. As a Canadian, I imagine you don't get Nando's where you're from. Are you planning on having one while you're out here?
We don't get a what?
Nando's.
Nando's.
It's a chicken place, but it's cheeky Nando's. It's one of the most glorious chicken shops in England, and I would highly recommend it to you.
Okay, so there's a store named Nando?
Yes.
It's called Nando's.
It's a restaurant chain called Nando's.
Okay, and what's so awesome about Nando's?
It's just.
But what do they sell? Like I'm not sure if you're making a joke.
Chicken. Just all chicken.
You're being serious.
Yes. Yeah.
So if I go to Nando's because of you, I'm not going to be cursing you.
No,
I'll be forever thanking you.
I highly recommend it.
All right, so I'll add that to the list. We'll try to find. I don't even know where's the nearest Nando's. It's a Portuguese restaurant.
Yeah, it's
Nando's?
Portuguese chicken.
So I'm going to come all the way to UK to eat Portuguese. I've already been served a New York steak. I've been served. I think there was Canadian water that was on sale. And what else was there? Oh, Chicago. There was a Chicago menu for stuff that apparently people in Chicago would eat. So okay, we'll try to find a Nando's before we go home.
If you're going down the food.
It's a fancy KFC. That's something, because KFC is really not fancy.
Remember Kenny Rogers roast chicken?
No.
Solid.
Yeah, no, I don't eat in the States very often.
Sorry, Matt. If you're going down.
Sorry, can you stand and speak up?
Sorry, Matt. As you're in London and you're going down the food route, you've got to try jelly deals.
You got to try.
Jelly deals.
Chenny Dios?
Jellied eels.
Jellied eels.
Yes. Proper London fare.
Okay. I will take that under advisement. Take that one off the list.
Hi, Matt. My name's Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Basically, so most of us here are probably Vault members. when I was looking
Actually,
at
I'm curious. And it's okay if you're not. Don't feel bad if you're not. I try to tell people that. How many people here are Vault members? Awesome. You want what? That's right. Well, thank you for all. You know, if you're not a Vault member, it's okay. You can fix that when you go home.
Don't force me.
So go ahead. What was your question?
Basically, my question was because obviously when you first looked through the bronze, silver, gold kind of package, like there wasn't anything there on the sort of silver or gold which really stood out to me. It wasn't so much about the money. So I was just thinking, have you ever thought about anything to entice people up from silver or bronze to that? Like,
It's a good question. The evolution of the Vault memberships, it started off that everybody was gold, essentially. It wasn't called a gold membership, it was just called a Vault membership. It was $20 a month for everybody. And the original idea of the Vault membership was the 3-month early thing, and for $20 a month. I know, crazy, right? This was before Netflix set the bar for what you should charge per month. This is years before that. And we also offered a discount in our store, which could help offset that. And so we found that, you know, obviously mostly Canadians, and then some Americans would get that, because back then the currency exchange was really in our favor, that an American could get stuff cheap from us. And so getting the Gold Vault membership worked. But then after a while, as we were kind of doing our market research, we realized a lot of people are European, who you know, some of them would join the Vault, but the majority didn't. So we basically had this whole market untapped. And so that's when we decided to come up with the silver membership, which is basically gold minus the store discounts. And so that one started. And then a while later, as other things became more popular, like Netflix, and we kind of started to see price points, we thought, wouldn't it be nice, because when you look at the percentage of people who are Vault members compared to how many are viewers, it's quite small. And that small amount does everything you see. Like, it's tremendous. The amount of money we make from a Vault member is, I think I did the calculation, is 100 to 200 times more than a non-Vault member per year. So, like, because we obviously make money from everybody because they watch our videos and we get a little bit of advertising revenue. But when you look at the average number of views that somebody does, how much money that makes us advertising-wise, a Vault member is equivalent to hundreds of those viewers. And so it doesn't take a large percentage before it makes a difference. So then we introduced the bronze membership because I ran a survey for a lot of people and said, why aren't you a Vault member? And the number one reason people said was they couldn't afford it, which, you know, obviously $10 a month, I think anybody can afford. But when you say I can't afford something, what it really means is I don't believe that this $10 of mine is equivalent to this value that you're giving me. Because that's what we say. Because obviously they spend $10 elsewhere. They'll buy food. And so they have money. It's just people, when they think about the money part of their purchases, it's often very small compared to what they're actually thinking is the reason they are or are not buying something. And this goes for everything, except maybe commodities where you just have to get it. And so what they're really saying, when you say I can't afford something, unless it's something that's like literally you can't afford it, like $1 million house or a really expensive car, when you're talking about things under $100, when you say I can't afford it, it usually means, you know, this money, I'd rather put towards something more important. And so that tells us that one of the ways that we could offer the Vault to more people is the bronze membership, and we opened that. And that really opened the floodgates, and we had a lot of people register because of that. Now silver is still our top membership, but bronze is catching up because the silver has had years over bronze. And so we've thought about that because the silver does offer something the bronze doesn't, and that's you can download the videos. And that's a big plus for some people, but like the 10% discount in the store, is not a big plus for everybody. So we have been trying to come up with ideas without taking stuff away from bronze members. Like you know, we're gonna just give you half the videos, or you only get 5 videos a month. We don't want to take people who are already existing in a membership, take something away and give it to a higher level. So we need to figure out something to add if we can. Otherwise, it's just gonna be that general hierarchy of we have the memberships, because this one really, if 10% of our viewers became bronze members, that would be ridiculous. We would make a ridiculous amount of money. And we would be able to expand and add so many studios and we could hire a lot. We would be able to do a lot, cover a lot more games with a small percentage. But they don't need to be silver or gold. And then the silver and the gold is just there to kind of convert a certain percentage of those to making more money for the business. So we are trying to figure that out. You might see some changes. I can almost say for sure you're going to see some changes over the next year or two to what we offer in terms of the different levels. But if you're already a Vault member and you don't like those changes, it's fine, because you get grandfathered in unless you cancel and then want to come back. Then So if you like the new thing, then you can. It'll all become clear, and maybe in the next few months. But we are constantly looking at that and thinking, how can we offer more value without removing value from what is already there? So we have to, basically we're adding on to it, so that we can then try to make more money, which will then allow us to add more value. Because it's a funny cycle. I always find it interesting when people are like, well, you know, why would I pay for something I can get for free? And it's like, well, actually, the free thing is paid for. And it's fine. Like I honestly, I don't have a problem with people who aren't Vault members. I just want to. It's more of the people who are like, oh, you know, you should be just giving this stuff away for free. It's like, well, actually, the only reason we're able to do any of this is because of our Vault members. I've said this time and time again. YouTube revenues wouldn't pay our rent. Like it does. They're not nothing, but they wouldn't pay our rent. And so the money, the 95% of our revenue comes from Vault members. And so we got to kind of we have to figure out a way to best maximize giving the value so that people will then want to sign up. Because it's not just about trying to get more money out of the people, it's also about getting more people into the vault. So it's a combination of that. So yeah, so it's kind of evolved into what it is now. If I were to like start it from scratch right now, it would look very different. But we can't do that because now we have this existing large membership base of people that we can't just all of a sudden say, you know what? We're just going to bait and switch. You thought you had this, now we're going to give you this. Now you got to upgrade to get what you already had at this lower price. We will never do that. If we do ever change prices, if you're already a member, you'll be stuck at your price until you cancel and then maybe want to sign up again. So grandfathered in.
Fair enough.
All right, unless you have any suggestions. No, what would make you want to be a silver member?
So there we go. So for me, it was the main difference was between the silver and gold. So it's just the gold, you get the additional 10% off over your favoured.
A couple stores in North America, yeah.
So I was thinking like what would attract me, and we were talking about it on the train down here actually. And I was just thinking, even if you just done like a little giveaway, just exclusive to gold members, because I don't think there would be that many gold members. So if you just said like, oh, you get this box of this or whatever, and in terms of your outfit, that's quite low.
Right.
So you'd cover your expense, even if you just got like 3 or 4 people to upgrade.
Right.
So I thought that's a relatively inexpensive, easily manageable way.
Yeah, that's definitely a good. Oh yeah, we're giving out, like somebody suggested that we give away bits. That'd be a bit of a nightmare, but it did give me the idea to like have like a bits box when people come in for battle reports. Because we're always looking for ways to say thank you to people who come in, so that we have dice we give away, measuring tapes, and so then the bits was a great idea. Just have this big box. It's like, hey, you came in for a battle report. Take a look. Take whatever you want, because we're constantly throwing out bits because there's just so many of them. You just keep. Oh, hold on one second. There you go.
Just to add to that about the giving away your bits to people when they come into play, they could also maybe suggest that people that have stuff they don't want, they could bring in and add to the box for maybe other gamers that come to your studio to play, and kind of like
a swap thing.
Swap meet without meeting.
Yeah. Oh, that's a cool idea actually. So bring in when you come in to play against us, bring in your unused bits, and then walk away with some, and we'll just keep swapping them out. Eventually we'll have like 1,000 square feet that is just, it's the bits bin, right? And we'll have a little diving board and first aid kits, especially if it's a lot of Eldar bits or Chaos bits. Man, picture those stuck all over me after I jump into that pile. Sorry, go ahead.
You can also have a monthly giveaway of the painting service.
That's right.
To advertise painting services more and to give something to gold members.
So get some painting services to offer a discount to silver or gold vault members is what you're saying?
Just like 1 or 2 or 3 free commissions.
Okay.
For like anyone who wins the giveaway.
Okay, so that's a good one too. Yeah, something to do with painting services, right? Whether it's giveaways or any of that could add value there too. The challenge, and this is the real challenge, is finding something that is going to be an appeal generally. And that's hard because a lot of these ideas are great ideas, but we're trying to basically come up with any ideas that'll be of appeal on a general basis, and because you want the maximum return for whatever you advertise, because we have to market ourselves, like to our audience, Like we have to push things to people who are already watching us. It's not just about getting new people to watch us. It's about taking those people and working on them and helping them to realize everything that's involved. Like I remember running a survey years ago, and just in the survey is like, did you know that this? Did you know that this? And there's a lot of no's. Even though people would watch a ton of our videos, they weren't aware of other stuff. And so we've done a lot of effort in trying to make it more obvious. Hence why you basically see at the end of every video, if you want to see the other video, click the link below. It's okay if you're not a Vault member. Does this sound familiar? There's a free, what's the next line? There's a free 7-day trial. And you could even keep it for 30 days after that. And if you don't like it, you get all your money back. So you got a 37-day trial, really. And I'm like, the reason I'm telling you this is because the majority of people stay. Over 75% of people who take the free membership stay. And that's like to me, that's the big selling point. That's why I'm not ashamed to be like, just try the free trial. And I even tell people, if you don't like it, cancel it. Make sure you cancel it. Or if you don't cancel it, we'll give you a refund. Because we know that most people that get in there do end up liking it. But yeah, we're always looking for ways to improve it, because we need to. We can't just stay the way we are now with the prices we are now. Like 30 years from now, obviously the prices will have had to gone up at some point. But also the benefits, because somebody else could come in and just start mimicking what we're doing, which is fine. But you always have to try to stay ahead of that. So yeah, we are working on changes, but the suggestions are great. Thank you very much.
Might I ask a second question?
Yes, can you pass the mic up for Sam? Oh, sorry, we have one back there.
Would you consider having a UK-based studio?
That's been asked a lot, and I can change that question to be, would I consider having a remote studio anywhere, not just the UK? Because really what the benefits of a UK studio would be access to UK players and UK talent. Because that's always what we're always looking for as a business, Mini Wargaming specifically, any business that wants a talent to draw from. And the more money they can offer, then the larger circle they can kind of draw from. Like if I were to offer somebody a $200,000 a year job or £100,000 a year job, then I'll get people to move. But if I'm offering the minimum wage, then you're going to draw from just people who are close enough to get there. And very few people, except those totally crazy because they just want to work there no matter how much they're paid. That may have happened in the past, and they'll move for that. And so if you're thinking of a remote location, what you're trying to draw on is both talent, so to get access to more people to make videos, and then also, for us, I'd say even more importantly, to get access to more people to come in and volunteer to be in the battle reports. And so that would be like useful for us to open even as a Toronto studio. It's only 2 hours away, but it's surprising how few people from Toronto actually come in and play. Like we get more people from overseas coming in to play 40K. Like I get people flying. I've had people fly from Germany. They come, they play for a few days in battle reports, and they fly home. It's just been amazing. And yet the local people, they don't want to drive an hour and a half. And so if we could put a studio in Toronto or a studio in Alberta or in the UK or in California, any of these population centers, I could see that being a benefit. Now the trick though, and the hard part, is kind of scaling the costs, the overhead of the business. Is that right now, if I want to add another video producer, all I have to do is rent out another few hundred square feet, build a studio. We've got all the equipment, all the resources already there, and we're good to go. So the cost is very little. If I want to start a new studio, then we have to rent out a whole new location. And then we have to have somebody to manage it. So that's going to be somebody that we have to be able to groom and train and trust to be able to do that. And then all the employees and all that. So it's a higher expense, but it is something that we've thought about, and maybe we'll see in the future. Where it is, I don't know. The UK would be tough because it's overseas to us. So it'd have to be at a point where I could come over here and live here for a few months, which we've talked about, but it's not in the immediate future. Holly is actually half English, so her father's English. So she could get her citizenship, and so that would make it easier. But I'd have to come over here because you don't want to just kind of throw it up and be done with it. What would be more likely to happen is if another independent company started doing what we're doing and proved that they had the facilities and the talent to do it. Then there could be some possibilities for partnering and that kind of stuff. Not just somebody who does it in their basement or in a club, but actually has studios and all of that, because we found that that's the key part to making good videos, as you can probably tell from this video, and the ambient noise and everything else that's going on. So so that's probably more likely the evolution of it, but who knows? It's really hard to say what it'll look like in 5 or 10 years from now, right? All right, Sam?
All right, so I have 2 questions.
Oh, one question at a time.
Okay, one more question, okay. All right, but this is a tough one.
All right.
Okay, if you had to choose a Space Marine chapter, and it doesn't have to be a first founding chapter. It could be any chapter except the Mini Wargaming one.
All right.
But which one would be your favourite if you had to pick one?
Any of those chapters that are canon, like that
Canon,
game,
yeah.
like canon
It
chapters.
doesn't have to be tactics-wise. It can be lore-wise.
Yeah. I think it would be down to either the Iron Fists or the Salamanders. Iron Fist because I love their color scheme. They look really cool. Or hold on, which one's the yellow one? Imperial Fist. Sorry. Wow, I know my Space Marines. Imperial Fist, because they're the ones with the shields and stuff, right? Or is that another one? Yeah, they're the siege guys, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You don't get much cooler than a Space Marine holding a shield, unless he was a Space Marine in a Space Marine holding a shield, being carried by a Space Marine, where he's like in a baby position, kind of like that, except forward facing. So I'd say Imperial Fists for looks. Salamanders are kind of cool though for their lore and also their gameplay. They have some really cool benefits, so I like that. So that's the first one. What's your second question?
It's just more
Nice and close.
It's more of a personal request because one of my friends would just be like going crazy and stuff. But could you go into the camera and say hello to Evan Harmer, please?
Evan
Harmer.
Evan Harmer. All right. Is it his birthday?
No, he's just a huge fan.
When's his birthday?
I don't know. I'm not very good with these things.
Hello, Evan Harmer.
We'll be screening after this.
Okay, all right. And happy birthday, whether it's in the future or the past. Or both. I guess it'll be both. All right, go ahead.
My name is Charles.
Charles.
Have you ever been to the Games Workshop exhibit and store yet?
The Nottingham one, the Warhammer World?
Yeah.
No, but we're going on Saturday.
You are?
Are you going Saturday? I was actually going to be posting on Facebook that we're going to. By the time you watch this video, I'll be here. There is? Oh, Battle Brothers. Oh, so Battle Brothers is this Saturday. Well, I'm not going to play. I'm just going to walk around and check it out. I just want to check it out. But we are going on Saturday because we can't come all the way to the UK and not go to Warhammer World. No matter how exciting or disappointing it ends up being, I have to do it. So yeah. I won't be disappointed? Okay. I hope you're right. I'm really just going in with no expectations. I'm like, whatever. I have to see it. It's Warhammer World, right? I don't know how often I'll get out here. That's right. Okay. All right, let's pass it this way. Unless you had another question. Did you have? No, you're good? All right. All right, down to this. Oh, okay. In first.
Hello, it's Marcus, and it was
Marcus, right?
Marcus.
That's right.
Just to sort of inquire, how would you suggest a smaller gaming channel growing on YouTube to sort of?
All right, you're gonna have to speak up. I'm sure the people on the video can hear you, but background noise, I can't hear you.
To sort of like a smaller gaming channel to grow on YouTube to sort of your sort of heights. essentially.
For battle reports or for reviews?
Paint tutorials, all that.
So who would I suggest?
No. How would you suggest you grow? As a
Oh,
smaller
how do you
channel?
grow one? Okay, sorry, the noise is getting loud here. How would I suggest growing one? That's a tough one. I feel this goes for most businesses, but I feel especially for ours, a lot of ours was luck. We and you might find that funny for me to say that, but like think about it. When we started this business, the biggest channel was Blue Table Painting, and they had 2,000 subscribers. Like, what were we thinking? Why did I look at this and think, yeah, this is a great idea for a business? There's obviously lots of people there. 2,000 people was the biggest. There was like tons of channels with like 100 subscribers or 50 subscribers or 500 subscribers. And so I feel that we kind of entered in at the right time because YouTube was young, because YouTube's not that old. And so we kind of rode the YouTube wave as it grew and everybody got interested. We happened to be one of the top, and so that helped us grow. So I do feel a lot of our growth is a bit of luck-based, that we came in at the right time. Now, if I were to start over again and not just try to rely on luck, then the things I would say to be able to build a channel that you'd hope would grow, the first thing that's most important is you have to make good content. That might sound like an obvious thing, but you can do all the marketing in the world, and if you work really hard to get somebody to your channel and the stuff they see they don't like, then they're not going to stay. So you're not going to have any stickiness. So you can throw all the customers you want at it. You can throw all the money in the world at a product that's bad, and yes, you'll sell some of that product, but you won't sell nearly as much. Whereas a really good product, or in this case videos, when people see it, well, it's social marketing, right? They'll be more likely to share it, comment, all that kind of stuff. So your priority always has to remain on making the best content that you can. Now, that's going to be different levels for each person, but so you need to, and there's all sorts of things you have to think about for that. You can watch other YouTube channels, get ideas from them. In the end, you got to make your own product, but you can get ideas from them. Listen to your subscribers. Don't listen too much, just listen enough. Because if you listen too much, you'll get depressed. Because it's YouTube. And let's just face it, people are mean on YouTube. And so it's not, you don't always, like, I've learned, like, for myself, because I have the advantage of being able to track almost like about 40 to 50% of people who become Vault members, I can tell which video they wanted to watch when they signed up. And so I'm able to see which videos drew in more people, which ones didn't, and all that kind of stuff. So I have this advantage that I get all these comments saying that sucked, but then I look at the Vault signups for that video and they're huge. I'm like, I'll just ignore you guys, because obviously it got a lot of customers. But when you're starting out, you don't have that. You don't have that ability to say, you know, regardless of what people said, this actually really spoke to people. In fact, sometimes the more negative comments you get, it either means it's actually really bad, or they love the idea so much that they get emotionally attached to it. I find this with our narrative campaigns. Our narrative campaigns get the most negative comments, but they by far outperform everything we do for getting Vault members. And I realize the reason for that is probably because people like them so much, they get more invested in them, and so they're much more likely to hate on them as well. Like a TV show that you love, and you watch it for a season, and you're just like, oh, I love this, and then season 2 starts, and they're like, why did you do that to my TV show? You're more likely to go out and start like bashing it because you loved it so much and you got into it. And so I think our narrative campaigns kind of do that. They're our best content, and so they get people most emotionally invested. And so you have to watch the comments, is all I'm trying to say, is that they're not always the best gauge. If they're all negative, then there's a problem. But if you get a polarizing effect where people either love you or they hate you, then you've struck up the right chord. That you need to generate that. You need to, like, you see this in politics. You see this in especially like political commentators. The ones you hear about are either loved or hated. They're never ones that people are like, yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that political commentator. If they're known, they're hated and they're loved. And so you have to kind of look at your comments that way. So when you're a smaller channel, people will be more friendly to you, and so they can give you the impression that something you're doing is actually good when it's not. And as you do something that gains more popularity, you might get the impression that something you're doing is bad, but is actually good. So what you need to do is you need to become kind of obsessed with your analytics, which comes into play once you start to get more viewers. You need to look partially at what people are saying, but look at what they're doing. Which videos are they watching? Which ones get the most attention? Which ones get more engagement with your subscribers? That's a big thing. And YouTube has all this in their back end. You can actually look at engagement. It's more than just about views. It's about what people do, what it drives them to do. And so you need to be obsessed with that. You need to be obsessed with creating videos, and you have to experiment with everything. Like, what about trying to do Battle Report this way? What about this way? Well, I see the way Mini Wargaming does it. Let's try it that way. Well, people say they wanted me to try it this way. They say they like striking scorpions for this reason, so I'm going to try this. And you just experiment until you start to see the pattern of what's getting more views. It might be about showcasing new armies. It might be about all that kind of stuff. I like, if I were to start fresh, I kind of have the advantage of knowing what works because I've already done it. So if I had to like close Mini Wargaming and start with the same knowledge that I have, then I would focus on 40K, regardless of how much I'd want to cover other games. Let's just face it, it's the one with the most viewership. I'd focus on 40K. I'd focus initially on battle reports and on reviews of new stuff. And never, as quickly as you can make the videos, you get reviews on new stuff done. And if you focus on those two things, that drives up our viewership, our engagement, and our Vault membership the most. Now, narrative campaigns, of course, do too, but they are ridiculously a large amount of work to do. Like, just you can't tell by watching the videos, but they take me twice as long as battle reports. Like in one day I can film 2 battle reports. I can't do that with narrative campaigns. Like when you see a full 6-week-long narrative campaign, so it's 12 battle reports, that's probably 15 to 20 working days of me alone, never mind the other person in the game. Like it's an immense amount of work. And so for a small channel where you're doing on the side, I don't know if you'll have time to do it. A narrative battle report, on the other hand, that could be great. So you have a story behind it and just kind of come up with that. Striking Scorpion does a good job with that. So I would just do that. Focus on your content and get obsessed with your analytics. Listen to your customers, but watch them more than you listen to them. Because YouTube, as soon as people get anonymity, they are more prone to be not as friendly as they would be to you in person. That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah, haters gotta hate. That's the reason that saying is very common. So that would be nice to focus on the content. Now for driving traffic, because the initial part, the problem is nobody's watching initially, right? So I would say for initially the things I would focus on, I wouldn't do any money paid, like I wouldn't do any paid advertising. None of that works in our market. There's not enough volume of it. It's just not worth it. I would focus on things like becoming very active in some of the very popular forums, like DakaDaka, Warseer, wherever. Becoming a big contributing part of that, like get known as much as you can. Use your signature, and then obviously wherever it's permitted without spamming, post your battle reports as well. A lot of those have places to post it, but you're not going to get tons of views from that. It's more about becoming part of the community, getting your signature in there, and really driving it that way. And yeah, there's lots of other things you can do too, but if it feels like it's spammy, it probably is. Let me put it that way. I remember back in the day, there's a sub for sub. It was a huge thing. I'll sub to you if you sub to me. Well, that's a great way of inflating my subscriber base with people who don't watch my videos, but who cares about subscribers? Like, does it matter if they're not watching, if they're a subscriber? It doesn't. So if something sounds like a scheme to get more traffic, it probably is. And just stay away from any of that. Not just because it's morally or ethically right or wrong, it's just not effective. It just doesn't work. You need real people who like what you do, who will tell their friends about it, and you just need to rinse and repeat that. And it kind of has this like exponential effect of social. That's what social marketing does, is exponential. It's that very, very slow climb at first, and then you'll hit points where you'll see jumps, and you'll hit another point, and that'll really jump up. And I would assume that would happen, but I'm not actually sure. I'm curious to watch a lot of these channels. A lot of channels now have 30, 40, 50,000 subscribers, whereas back then I remember when we got to 30 or 40,000, that was like, holy cow, this is humongous. And now there's a lot of people at that kind of 50,000 level. So that's a lot of viewers. You can make money with that. How you make money, you won't be making millions of dollars, I'll tell you that much, but there is a potential for a business there. If you're just doing it for fun, of course, just make content that you have fun with and forget what everybody else says and just put out whatever you want. But if you're looking really to grow something out of it, that's what I would do. So, and 1,000 other things too, but that's like the big things I would do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And check out the Marcus 69 channel.
Oh, sorry, say that again.
Check out the Marcus 69 channel.
All right. Hey, you came all the way here, you can plug your channel.
I am Ted.
Ted.
If you could create a Space Marine weapon, what would it look like and what would its stats be?
Oh man, depends. How old am I? Am I 12 or am I 30?
Space Marine wise?
No. How old am I when I decide I want to create this weapon? Okay, let me explain.
This is you being reckless when you're 8.
Yeah, if I was 12 years old, I remember back then when I'd play games, I'd always min-max as much as possible. I remember Battlespace or Battletech, you could build your own mechs and your own spaceships, and they had this system to do it that you could totally break. And I'd build the baddest, meanest spaceships that none of the ones in the book would ever compare to. But it would be a nightmare to live on because the crew space is tiny. There's no like grav decks to give anybody exercise. My crew would last one trip and I'll be dead by the end. But it would be fantastically strong in a space battle. And that's what my mentality was when I was younger. It's like if I were to create a weapon, it would be like this, 15-inch template. Now a destroyer. Back then, of course, you didn't have destroyer. So just strength 10, auto wound on 1+, ignores every save possible, removed from play. Vortex missile. I would make a vortex missile, but in a pistol that has like infinite range. But now, as I've matured in the hobby, I've realized that that's not that fun. I've had a vortex missile shot at me, and it just wrecks the game. Or a vortex grenade that killed 3 of my monstrous creatures in one turn when I only had 4 or 5 of them in the entire army. Just, Go Grey Knight's powers. Anyways, that's not fun. So if I were to look for a weapon, I guess a Space Marine weapon specifically, that's tough because they've got everything. If you said Tyranid, I'd already know the answer. Can you say Tyranid?
Yeah.
Okay, Tyranid. Well, because Space Marines, they have it all. They've got grav weapons to take care of everything, and bolters which take care of the small stuff, and they've got missile launchers and plasma, and they've got everything. They got things that can shoot 1,000,000 times, or something that's a flamer template. They've got access to the vortex, and so I think they already have everything they need. So don't worry about the Space Marines.
Yeah.
Tyranids, on the other hand, they need some more stuff.
I mean, Space Marines don't have bioplasma.
Well, yeah. Well, they do. It's just plasma, and it's better. But anyway, Tyranids, on the other hand, they need more anti-armor shooting.
Yeah.
I'm serious, actually. I'm not just saying this. I'm saying this as a 30-something-year-old now, not a 12-year-old. As a 12-year-old, of course, they need some sort of ridiculous, overpowered thing that kills everybody in one shot. But I would say they need a lot more anti-armor, ranged anti-armor. Doesn't have to be super long range, but when I see my Tyrannofex, what I paid 200-something points for, with his strength 10 weapon, only fire twice, and he hits only half of the time, and it's AP4, that doesn't quite add up to me. It's like, I'm not seeing a use for this weapon. If it was AP2, all of a sudden I'd like it. So just more AP2, more AP1, higher strength ranged weaponry. Because of the nerf to Stomp, the Tyranids have a harder time now with vehicles. Before, Trigon, throw them into combat. Tervigons, throw them into combat with a vehicle. That's fine. You Stomp, lose a couple attacks. Now with Trigons, you charge, you go from 7 attacks to 1 attack to get your Stomp attack. Or sorry, no, Smash. Not Stomp, Smash. Sorry, I'm tired. I've been touring all day long. So Smash got nerfed, not Stomp. Stomp got awesome. And so I'd say, Tyranid-wise, some ranged weaponry that would be good at anti-armor.
Yeah.
Some higher strength, lower AP weapons. Not a lot, because Tyranids used to have access to some pretty nasty stuff, like the Barbed Strangler used to be the large blast, strength 8. And that was awesome, when I could put it on like 6 Carnifexes, but they lost that. So yeah, just higher strength, low AP weaponry for the Tyranids is what I would do. That's what I would do if I were designing the next Tyranid Codex.
Also, could you tell Dave I say hi?
I will tell him. Dave.
I'm a very big fan.
All right, I will tell him he said hi. Sorry, what was your name again? Ted says hi, but I'll also tell him that in person, if I remember. Which I may not, but I'll try. All right, pass it on. Oh, we're down here. We got a few hands up. There are chairs if you want to sit down.
Can you give us your best au revoir?
Oh. It might not be that good. I would bring in Dan for this one. The best orc wog. Okay. Let's just turn into performing arts. That's not my specialty. That's Dave's specialty. All right. Here we go. My best orc wog. I won't disappoint. Good. Woo! I'm glad I came all the way to do that. Cool. Hold on a second.
You can put Dave in afterwards.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. All right. I think there's more questions down there.
Out of all the narrative campaigns you've done, with the exception of Matthias, because obviously that's you, which one of the characters have you got invested in the most personally?
That's tough. There's a few. Matthias, no, he was not that spectacular. He's kind of boring. He's trapped now at the Necrons. We'll deal with him later. We'll do some sort of retconning to, time-traveling Star Trek thing to fix him.
Games Workshop version.
Yeah, exactly. Games Workshop version, yeah. He fell in the warp, and now he's fine. No, Inquisitor Croyle is pretty cool. I don't know if anybody stands up to Khrushchev, though. Not because he was that good, but because he wasn't, and he survived. But then I would have to say, there's the 3 for me. There's Khrushchev, there's Croyle, and then there's Khnum. Khnum was kind of our star without even realizing it. And he was one of the first, and so I couldn't help but have him be one of my favorites. But I think out of the 3 of those, I find the Inquisitor Croyle to be the most interesting. But maybe because he's involved with Tyranids. But although Khrushchev was too. But Khrushchev was definitely I think he was the coolest, because part of the reason for that is because Leland actually took the time to change the model after each game. Like, he kept dying, and he kept coming back, and like against all the odds. Like, sorry Leland, you've had this. He was insta killed, and he was already majorly wounded. That means he gets a +6 to this roll. You have to roll a 1, otherwise he's dead. 1. Okay, he's alive, but he's down a few limbs. So he replaced his arms with Necron arms. He replaced parts of them with, and then in the end, after the campaign, we decided he'd used Commissar Yarick's rules because he was just that awesome. And we haven't really seen him perform since, because he was only in the one next campaign and everybody sucked. Now the whole Space Marine chat, oh, got quiet. That's nice. And yeah, so I'd say Croyle's the most interesting narrative-wise, but Khrushchev was by far the coolest guy. He's the one I would fight with, because he would probably die and I'd stay alive, because that's what kept happening with him, and he just looks cool. So yeah, all the ones that are converted I find to be the most interesting as well. Like, although any campaign Leland has been in, he's always liked converting models. Helen was cool too, but I kind of I don't know if you'd noticed, but I kind of Deus Ex Machina her through the campaign because I wanted her to become what she did. So, but whereas Croyle, Khrushchev, and Khanum were more natural, they just they occurred because of dice. Like Khrushchev killing that Prime. I'm not sure if anybody remembers. I remember these moments because they were just fantastic for me. Him standing up to a Tyranid Prime when he should not have survived as long as he did, and actually striking he landed the killing blow in the very last mission of that campaign. That was just the epitome of everything he led up to. So at those moments, and these are the kind of things that you get in the game with your own army too. Once you start to really invest yourself in it, you get these moments where they just do something that they shouldn't, by any means, have been able to do, but they do it. And it's just awesome. And then you try to make them do those things, and they don't. You have to just let it kind of happen. And that's what I've discovered and had to hone that in my narrative skills. To just don't force anything. Let the stars rise. And if you had created stars, they're most likely going to be the ones that suck throughout the campaign, because the dice will do that to you, and they're mean.
We had I played narrative campaigns with a friend of mine, and we had an Orc Knob from his warband just rise through the ranks of killing everything that was put in front of him. So we made him into a war boss, and then all of a sudden
he dies, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you care about him, he dies, right? I hate it. So people have suggested like 100 solutions to that problem, but there is no solution to it. It's just you roll dice. The only solution is to fix the whole thing, and we don't do that in our narrative campaigns anymore.
So Matt, as you're over here and you do your beat bat rips, have you got any challenges over here yet?
Over here?
Yeah.
I had not able to do them while I'm here. I've got a lot of emails of people asking me to do a beat map bat rep while I'm here, but just with the short time that we're here, it just wasn't going to work. So unfortunately, I know.
Chickening out.
A beat map bat rep UK edition. It would have been awesome, but I don't think we'll have time for it, unfortunately. Sorry. A dance? We can do the dance. We can all participate in the beat map bat rep dance if you want to. We'll move the camera for that one. We got some time because Dave's not here to do the Life of a Wargamer that we were going to do. So if you want to participate in the beat map bat rep dance, you have no idea what that is, do you? She doesn't watch my videos. No, that's okay. I don't watch my videos.
Hi Matt, I'm Mark, and I'd like to say that your learning Infinity back reps were amazing.
Oh, thank you.
And they're a really big push across the Infinity community to get a lot of people interested in the game.
Oh, great.
And, whilst I understand it's died off a little bit, your coverage of that stuff is picking up soon. So my question wasn't really about that. It's more that with so many new games coming into the industry, being out on the market with Kickstarters and so on, pushing even further, more and more games coming out. How do you see the industry and what you're going to be doing altering over the next
10, 20, 30 years, right? That's tough because it's predicting the future, right? And as much as we try to do that as a business, everything I've planned has really not been the thing that's been making the money. Like the vault, for example, was a side thing. It's like, while we make our millions of dollars with our store, we'll do this little vault thing. And now the store is down and the vault is our main thing. Like battle reports. I was actually just the other day looking at our YouTube channel, looking at the oldest videos. Battle reports were barely in there. It wasn't what we were doing. We were just doing kind of really bad, weird stuff. Like not bad as in morally bad, but just like they're hard to watch. They're pretty awful. Some of them were funny. The majority were awful. But like battle reports, like when we started doing battle reports, I'm like, we've taken all this time to make this battle report. We got to make it last because we weren't making very many videos. So we take this 50-minute battle report and we break it into 10-minute segments and release it once per week. I don't know if anybody was here around that time. It was awful. People had to wait 5 weeks to watch one battle report. Like, it was just bad. So it wasn't even our thing. We tried all sorts of different things. And so all I'm trying to say is it's hard to tell what it's going to be. Now, my guess is that Games Workshop probably has another 10 years of monopoly, 20 years at most, because let's face it, they are making a lot of bad decisions with their business. Now, people might disagree with me. I'm sure a lot of people at Games Workshop would disagree with me, and I hope so. I hope they don't knowingly make bad decisions. But just there's a lot of things that are driving their customer base down, and we see that. This isn't just conjecture. You look at their reports, and it's not that they're not that they're going out of business or anything, but when you look at their number of customers, it is dropping quite a bit, actually. And so those customers, though, are still enthusiasts, and a lot of them will look for something else to do. And so they go over to the other games as well. So Games Workshop built the market, and now it's kind of receding in certain areas. Like, they're not going to die. No company gets that big and then just dies. That does not happen. It's just they might sell, they could break up into smaller pieces, but they'd never die. So 40K is not going anywhere. Fantasy is not going anywhere for a very long time. Lord of the Rings, yeah, obviously that's going somewhere. But those games, they'll be around for a long time. And so for a long time, they're going to have the majority of the viewership because of the monopoly they've taken in the market, because they are a monopoly. Even now, at this moment, they are still, we don't have public finances of all the other businesses. Like, I'd love to see Privateer Press, Battlefront, Corvus Belli, all these different ones. I'd love to see them so I could compare and better answer this question. But we can't, so we have to guess. And our guesses are always really bad. Like, I've heard people say 40K is dying. In my store, nobody plays it. They all play Infinity. It's like, well, I hate to tell you this, but when I put a 40K battle report up, it gets a lot more views than an Infinity battle report. Now, that could be partially because we've catered to 40K for so long, but that's not the only reason. It's because there's more 40K players out there in general. And so if I had what we're experimenting with right now with War Machine and Infinity, Fantasy has proven itself that it's good enough for us to, like, viewership-wise, for us to really cover. Infinity and War Machine, they're the ones that we have to kind of get a really regular thing going with them, and that's what Leland and now Dave Quirk are working on, and then with me and Steve, and me and Steve helping them with that. And we're gonna see just what kind of viewership we can build with these smaller games. Now, War Machine is a bigger game, but it's different. It's a different kind of audience, a lot more competitive, and so you have to make your videos to suit that. And so if we can prove that we can make War Machine and Infinity viable in our channel, then it would make sense to continue to bring in new games. Obviously, the more popular they are, the better they are. Yes, we have the ability to help a game really get started, like we have with Infinity. Although I'm not sure how much we contribute to that. It's just a guess. But I know we've helped. If we had like a no-name person who had no contacts whatsoever, and we all of a sudden started making battle reports for them every week, yes, they would sell miniatures, and we could say, yeah, obviously we're helping them grow. But we have to, at the same time, we have to make money from it as well. And these companies don't have tons of money to pay us to make videos for them, because that would be the other kind of industry. You see industries where a gaming company will come to you and say, hey, we've got $1 million advertising budget, so we'll pay you $500,000 to make this series of videos. And the industries do that. They totally do that. But this industry doesn't have that money. The biggest company does 200 million pounds a year. That's small. That's really small for the biggest company in the industry. It's a big company, but it's not like that. That's nothing. Like, I don't even know what Apple iPhone sales are, but I wouldn't be surprised if the iPhone sales alone are bigger than that. And never mind the rest of the business. And so when you're in a small market, there's not a lot of advertising dollars to throw around. And so we have to make videos based off of what people are playing. So it becomes cyclical. We make videos about 40K, and that helps 40K's popularity, which then gets us more viewership for 40K, which helps 40K's popularity. So what I hope will happen in the future is that we will be able to grow to the point where we can afford to have at least a branch of our business that focuses on the smaller games, so they get coverage too. And because it's a smaller part of our business, it has less overhead. And so if we don't make as much money, it's okay. because we're still making enough to make up for the costs of doing that. Because I really want to give these other companies a limelight, but monetary-wise, if we started doing that at the expense of our 40K and our fantasy videos, we wouldn't make as much money, and that would be a downwards trend, obviously. So I hope that as we grow, part of that growth will be incorporating all sorts of other games. So you become, like Beasts of War does a good job at that. They cover a lot of different games. And I want to be able to do that. Battle reports, reviews, kind of have like different hubs within mini wargaming itself. Like you don't care about 40K, that's okay. You come in and you click on this hub and you're on the part of mini wargaming that you care about. That's what I'd like it to become. What it becomes will be dependent on the market though, and it will always react to that because that's where the money is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. Has the game become less fun for you because it's become your job?
Oh, well, I would have to answer the question yes, in general, but I still have a lot of fun with it. Anytime that you're going to have to play it as often as I do, obviously it's not as fun as when you just do pickup games whenever you feel like it. At the same time, I feel like I have a huge advantage over everybody else in the world because I have the coolest gaming club. Because my gaming club is people from all over the world who come in to play for fun. I get very few win-at-all-cost players. Like the only ones that I've really gotten were usually locals because they're like, oh, you're local, so I'll come in and play against you. So they're more prone to that. But if you travel from Costa Rica to spend 4 days with us making battle reports, you're probably not that guy. You're probably a fun. Let's have some fun. It's a great idea. I'll do this thing that handicaps me because it's a cool looking mission. Let's do that. Let's throw that at this. And so I think that I have the advantage of not having to worry about what a lot of club members do, where they kind of show up, they bring their army, and then they sit down across from the new Eldar player who doesn't know his strength. It's like it's the guy. It's like the strong guy who punches too hard because he doesn't realize how strong he is. And so you're going to get that, and that's not going to be very much fun. You're going to go home that night being like, I wish I had played against somebody that kind of would be willing to do that. So maybe in that sense, I have more fun than the average gamer. And I also get to play way more often. So maybe I have more fun. So that's a hard question to answer, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I guess I would say this, and Holly knows this. My mood at the end of the day is greatly determined by the player. There have been days, and thankfully these are less often, where I come home and think, maybe I don't like 40K. And then there are days I come home and I'm like, this is the best game ever! And it all depends on, well, it's not just the player. Sometimes the dice, they can kind of ruin the game for you too. Sometimes I wish dice would act statistically. It bothers me when they don't, unless it goes in my favor, and then I'm okay with it. But, so maybe they cancel each other out. So I have just as much fun as everybody else. So let me say it this way. It's nice when I've played several days in a row of battle reports, it's nice to have a day that I don't have battle reports. So I can definitely say by doing it so much, it definitely is nice to not do it. But at the same time, I recognize that I have access to more models, terrain, and awesome players than probably people in the biggest gaming clubs ever have access to. And so in that sense, I think I probably have more fun. And I get to do narrative campaigns, although actually, narrative campaigns are less fun than they might seem because they're so stressful, because everybody loves them and hates them so much. And so I actually have to work harder at those. A regular battle report, that's a piece of cake. Narrative campaigns, they're stressful. Because like I'm playing the game, I'm like, oh no, this happened. Everybody's going to hate that. And it's just all that kind of stuff. So does that answer your question in like a non-answer kind of way?
Yeah, I think so.
It does?
I guess if I had to play every day, I'd probably think, I really don't feel like playing this morning. And
some days I don't, yeah.
I wouldn't do it in my spare time probably if I had to play every day.
Oh, I don't have spare time. What would I do in my spare time is a great question, because I don't know. Because when you have 3 kids, you don't have very much of that. Yeah, there are days where I go into work thinking I wish I didn't have battle reports today, but often on those days, by the end of the day, I think otherwise. So it's a great job. It's a great job that is stressful and fun and tiring and fantastic. So I'm very lucky to have it. Overall, is what I would say. Over here, we got a hand. Yeah, just pass it over.
Hi Matt, Tim. A bit of a question I think that everyone will probably want to hear the answer to. Over the past year or so, you've employed several people. You're redoing all the studios. You are increasing content, quantity, quality, range. Yeah, without dropping too much. What's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
So the question was, for all that come here, he's noticed over the past couple of years we've been expanding, adding more studios, hiring different employees. So what's next in the pipeline? Oh, you assume we plan. I would say, it's dangerous for a business to say that they don't know their 5-year plan, but we've just gotten started. So it's really hard to say what's next because we're still experimenting. Like I said, right now we're experimenting with, can we get employees covering games that aren't 40K and have that make money? And if the answer to that is yes, then you're going to see more of that. If the answer to that is no, then other games will still be covered, but lower frequencies, and more of our efforts will be on creating a more diverse content for 40K and fantasy, obviously, and whatever other games end up being more popular as well. But big things, like you're probably talking about things like when we decided to do narrative campaigns, right? Yeah, so if you had asked me that a month before I did that narrative campaign, what's your next big thing? I would have the same answer. I don't know. Because that was just one of many things that we tried. Like we've tried a lot of different kinds of videos. We still experiment with just trying. We kind of throw stuff up. I've heard it called the spaghetti test. If you want to know your spaghetti's done, you throw it against the wall. And if it sticks, it's good. And if it doesn't stick, it's not good. Well, we do a lot of that. It's like, here's some videos. Oh, look, that one stuck. Or lots of times, here's some videos. Oh, none of them stuck. And so then a month later, we did the narrative campaign, and it just was like, why didn't we do these 2 years ago? So there's always that kind of thing. We try to innovate as much as we can, and we eliminate 90% of it because it just doesn't work. People didn't really care as much as we hoped that they would, or things that we think would work wouldn't. So I'd say the next thing right now is that we're working on seeing how much we can cover other games, because I really would like to have a more diverse kind of portfolio of games that we cover, just to attract, because there's other gamers out there that just don't care about 40K. And so we want to be able to tap into that market as well. So that's kind of what's next. So there's nothing really exciting in the pipeline. Like specifically, that would be like this grand announcement of, we now have our iPhone 7. I know you just bought your iPhone 6 last month, but now we've got the 7. Like we don't have that kind of thing. So we're always trying to experiment with improving our content, and we pay close attention to what works, and we trim what doesn't work, or we try to improve what doesn't work. And then that's how we've grown to where we are. It's kind of an organic process that would scare the bejeebies out of investors because they don't want to hear that. They want to be like, what's your plan for making money 10 years from now? It's like, making videos, right? That's worked so far, kind of, to this point. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry, Tom had his hand up next. I remembered his name. That's pretty impressive.
So yeah, this one's like, I was watching one of your sit-ins talks, I think you said you did most of the kind of operational kind of side of things, in terms of like staff management and things.
Yeah.
And then obviously we see a lot of the negativity that you get on YouTube, which is a bit unjust or whatever, but never mind. So I was just wondering how that's got to get people down. Because even in my line of work, people get down about complaints and things. So it's like, how do you manage that and get them to bounce back with all the energy that they have in the first place?
It can be hard. This goes for anything. Like when we put up certain videos and we watch the comments, and that's why I was talking about before when you're building you have to listen and not listen at the same time. And part of not listening is ignoring those, but knowing when to ignore them is tough. Because if it's a legitimate complaint, like we make changes. Like we're right now, for example, one of the things initiative I'm running right now is trying to improve our rules accuracy. Because we get a lot of flack for getting rules. I still hold up that we get a lot of rules right. Yeah. And that if you were to record your game, Mr. Know-It-All, and put it in front of 50,000 people, they'd probably find 50 things that you got wrong. But you don't realize you got them wrong, so you think you got them all right. So, yeah, so I still think most people, but it is annoying to watch and see rules errors, and so the number of complaints we've gotten about that like I was like, okay, we got to try to see if we can improve this, because can it be improved? I don't know. We'll try, and maybe it can't. Maybe it's always going to be an issue. I know watching Tabletop with Geek and Sundry, I watched a lot of their videos, and I don't know when they got rules wrong. And then I watched when they actually played Star Wars, the miniatures game. Oh, they got so many things wrong. And that was the first one I watched where I realized how much they got wrong. And I was looking in the comments and I saw people saying, hey, you did this wrong, and you did this wrong, and you did this wrong. And then I remember watching an interview with him where they asked him if he ever frequented Board Game Geek, because obviously that's related to his industry. And he said he stayed away from it because they made a decision when they first started making their videos that they weren't going to try to get every rule right. And so they realized they'd get a lot of hate in the forums, and so he just didn't want to read that. So part of handling it is ignoring it. But at the same time, as the person kind of in charge of the operations, I need to know what people are thinking. Customer feedback is incredibly important, and comments is one way. It's this love-hate relationship with social marketing. Wonderful thing. It's built our business. We wouldn't have our business without social marketing. But it also allows more people to complain to you as well, even when they don't really need to. Like, how many times have you thought a complaint about a business, but because you didn't have an easy way to yell at somebody, you just didn't tell them? But now you got social marketing, so you can tell them whenever you want. And so it's hard. And I will admit that, especially with some of the narrative campaign stuff, that is stressful because of the comments. Because I invest myself a lot. I do a lot of writing, a lot of story stuff that I try to figure out. I try to make the games as good as I can, and then I put it out there. And it can be a downer. It can honestly be a downer. And it's hard. Sometimes it makes me not want to do it, but you have to ignore it and move on. And so how do I deal with it? Well, one way that I deal with it is going to sound funny, is I open up the statistics for the vault and I look at that we're making money. Okay. And I'm like, hey, we're making money. Who cares what they're saying? Open up the bank account. Yeah, there's money in the bank account. Yeah. All right, obviously we're doing something right because people are giving us their money. And if we were doing everything horribly wrong, then people wouldn't be giving us money. Like, this wouldn't happen. We wouldn't get this many people signing up for the vault. And so I kind of look at statistics to make myself feel better. So I let the robots make me feel better after the people made me feel bad. But also, don't get me wrong. We get a lot of nice comments. We get emails. Most of the emails I get, that if people actually take the effort to send me an email, they're usually nice. And so we get a lot of positive comments, and that helps as well. So it's all about. I remember reading a comic strip, a comic strip called For Better or For Worse. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with that. It's like a family comic strip. I read it when I was a kid, or I was a teenager. And in one of it, it's the story of a family. And one of them, there's this daughter, and she's a young teenager, so still going through all the social anxiety. And her mother puts her hair in this really nice pony and this nice braids. That's the first comic. Then she goes to school. First person that sees her, those are lovely braids. Thank you. Next person, those are awesome braids. Thank you. It goes through like 10 people. And then there's one bully at the end who says, "Well, look at the pigtails on the piggy." And then the next frame is her in the bathroom taking them all out. Yeah. And then the next frame is her getting home and the mother saying, "What happened to your pigtails or your braids?" And she said, "Nobody liked them." And that's true. That is very true to life. That we can get 10 compliments and then one complaint, and that can just erase all those compliments. You can be like, "Oh, so many people hated on that video." I'd actually have to show that. Some employees have said that. Nobody liked this one. Everybody hates it. And I'm like, how many? Well, there's this one guy who keeps telling me he hates it. And I'm like, how many others? Just the one. And there's like 300 comments on the video. But it gets to you. It really does. So you have to remind yourself that you have to look at what people are doing, not just what they're saying. And so, and then you look at the nice comments too, and that makes you feel a little better.
Yeah, I think what stuck out to me, I don't know if I'm guessing other people watched it as well, but with the whole Who Would Wins, I think that's when it first kind of like kicked off.
The rules errors? Oh, because it got so many wrong.
Yeah.
How do you get rules wrong with 2 models, right?
Yeah, there was so many wrong, but then when I re-watched it, and then the whole lose like 6 inches, I actually enjoyed the first set of videos more, which is, I don't know, it's probably the same I think for a lot of viewers as well, so it's pretty weird. I don't know if other people thought the same.
Well, it comes down to simple, a lot of people are saying it, so we'll try to improve it.
Yeah.
And I've already gotten used to it. And I read comments, I look for people pointing out things we got wrong.
Yeah.
Because I learn from that. And so I appreciate when people point it out in a nice way. and not 100 times after somebody else has already, read the comments. Somebody's already pointed that out, and 50 other people did too. So let's get to some interesting comments. But no, I appreciate when people point rules errors out, because then we learn from them. But sometimes, with the way that we record videos, like right now we record videos a month and a half ahead. So it's like, yeah, we got that rule wrong. And we've already recorded 10 more battle reports with that rule wrong too. So get used to it for the next month and a half, and then we'll fix it. So it's part of the industry. We don't even have to deal with things that like really famous people have to deal with, like actors. I look at tabloids and I think, if I were an actor, I just wouldn't go to the grocery store. I would just get somebody else. I'd have the money to do it. I'd hire somebody else to go get my groceries, so I wouldn't have to look at the tabloids, because they just like find the awful pictures of you, and then they put weird stuff to it. It's like, look at this growth on her. It's awful, and maybe she's pregnant. It's just awful what they have to go through. So people think that they forget that people are people. They see them as a business or as kind of just this figure, and they forget that they have emotions and they care about that kind of stuff as well. So yeah.
On the topic of rule discussions, I think that...
Sorry, speak up. We got a train going.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. It's a long train. All right, just speak up.
I think that the rule discussion videos that you started doing is a really good idea, and I'm curious why you only put them in the vault, not on YouTube.
The rules discussion videos, the reason we put them in the vault is because they're truly a behind the scenes. I don't make the video for anybody. We're having a discussion, and we just turn on the camera. I'm like, why not turn on the camera? People like this. And so one of the things we try to do for the vault members is give them a more frank behind the scenes look at how we run. So, because that question could be asked about anything. Why don't we put this out for free or this out for free?
Because I think you would get less comments on YouTube pointing out the rules and stuff like that. And
I don't know.
People would like that as well.
I can see why you'd think that, but in the end, it's YouTube. Like it's just what it comes down to. Like if the answer to the question of how I deal with it, like the negative comments, I will read the comments on our website, and they're going to be generally. Although we're getting to the point now where people think we're bigger, and so the people that are like to hate are starting to gravitate over to our website as well. Because once you get big enough, then all of a sudden it's like free range. But we're not even that big, but we might have a perception of being up by the number of videos we put out. Or like look at all the studios we're building and stuff. We're still just a half dozen guys making videos. And so, but yeah, generally I find out if people come to our website, register for an account, become a Vault member, and they leave comments, way nicer. And so...
Most of the comments on the website are more constructive.
Yes, and if there are criticisms, you're right, they're more constructive criticisms. And so I'll tend not to read the YouTube comments nearly as often, partly because of time too. Like I just can't keep up with it, except for videos I'm like really excited for that I just put out. Or if like with a new reviews series just came out and we just put up a couple videos and we're about to make something else and I want to kind of see feedback, then I'll be monitoring comments there. I can't keep up with all of them, that's for sure. But the nice thing about our site is that the really important comments get thumbed up really fast and they get brought up to the top. And I'm able to quickly glance through and see what people are really caring about. And so, yeah, they do tend to be better. So, but going back to your question about why we don't put it on YouTube, that's always a question we ask ourselves. This video series, we tend to try to do everything in pairs, if you've noticed, and have one for free and one in the vault. Because if we only put it in the vault, then people don't know about it for free, and so they don't sign up for the vault. Vault members love it. Like the painting tutorials is a great example of this. We're working on hiring another painting tutorial producer, so that we can start putting them out for free as well, so we can build our brand of that. Because right now the quick tips that Chris puts out are a very pleasant surprise to people that join the Vault. Most people don't know about them until they're a Vault member. They join, they're like, what? There's 1,000 painting tutorials in here about pretty much every subject? That is awesome. They just don't know about it. And I try to talk about it, but really in the end, the thing that drives Vault members the most is being like, here's a piece of content you like it, right? Here's another one, you got to be a Vault member. And so the rules discussion doesn't follow that. It just sticks one in the Vault. But that's more because I view it as a behind the scenes. And so we kind of just make those every once in a while and throw them in. And so maybe it'll become something more. But right now it's another spaghetti. It's another piece of spaghetti being thrown at the wall. We're just kind of making them and seeing what happens with them. So anytime something only has 3 or 4 episodes, you know it's still in the spaghetti mode. Still boy.
Did you find that it helped you a lot?
Yes, everybody is benefiting from those a lot. And we're finding weird, like really, really weird things. Like disembarking from a vehicle into difficult terrain, you get +1 to your movement. Like, who knew? And if you're a bigger base, you get even more. Because when you disembark from a vehicle, you place the model in base contact, and then you move, and you have to remain wholly within 6 inches of the access point. Well, if you place it, and then roll a 5 for your difficult terrain, well, you've already got your inch move, you move 5 inches. It doesn't say subtract an inch of movement or subtract your bases of movement. So you actually get a +1 to your... I never knew that. I've been playing 40K for years now. And I doubt even Games Workshop realizes that rule gives everybody +1 to difficult terrain when you're disembarking from a vehicle. And you can try to describe it with fluff, but who cares? Also weird things like the Dune Strider. If you try to disembark from a vehicle and you've got Dune Strider, which gives you +3 movement, you still can only stay within 6 inches. I bet you a lot of people are going to move 9 inches from their vehicle because they're not used to dealing with that. They don't get jump infantry getting out of vehicles because they're generally not allowed in them, or yeah, you just generally don't get them in vehicles. And so you get weird rules like that we've discovered that are really interesting.
So the Dune Strider just disembark normally 6 inches.
Yeah, everybody thinks that you just disembark 6 inches, right? You don't. You actually don't. That's not how you do it. Most people are doing it wrong. They don't even realize it. Including you, rules guy. So yeah.
Earlier we talked about moments in narrative campaigns. You said in the past that you've done a lot of DMing for games like D&D. Are there any moments from your D&D games in the past that you've had that have always stuck in your mind?
Well, D&D not so much. I only played D&D for a little while. It was 4.5, so it was the miniatures edition, which was fun. But most of the DMing I did was as a teenager. We played a game called Fighting Fantasy. Anybody who knows their history of Games Workshop will know that Ian Livingstone and Steve Jackson, before they made Games Workshop, or maybe around the same time, I'm not sure, wrote some books. And they were choose your own adventure with pen and paper role-playing elements to them called Fighting Fantasy. And I got into those in elementary school, and then I discovered Advanced Fighting Fantasy, which is essentially, it's role-playing games. And so that was our very first role-playing game. And Dave and I would play it, and my brothers and other friends as well. And then we got into Mech Warrior, which was the role-playing aspect of BattleTech. Then I did my own homebrewed one. And then we played D&D as well. Favorite moments? I had one gaming group, which was spectacular, because if you want the best gaming group, and you have a good DM, they have to basically give free license to the DM to do whatever he wants and not complain, no matter what that is. Basically, let him be God and just allow that to happen, because you get the coolest moments when the players are willing to just take whatever comes at them and run with that. Like, for example, I had one player in this one really good group. Like, okay, we had one guy, for example, who looked forward to dying because he had 3 other character ideas that he wanted to bring into the table. And they would always be the worst characters, and he knew it, but he would love playing them. And so he just had so much fun with that. But we had this other guy who I think he had some evil tendencies back then. He's better now. And he was a necromancer in our group. He was supposed to be good, but he always did things that were kind of questionable in the game. And so I had this kind of idea as the story progressed, because I wasn't liking his character very much, that I would turn him into an NPC. And the way I would do that is in the game he would get separated from the group, and then he'd find there was a sword stuck in the wall, and your classic, whispering to you in your mind, and it's a demon weapon of sorts. And it was supposed to give him this big moral dilemma of whether he got this ultimate power, because the sword would give him all these buffs, but it would also turn him on his friends, and he knew this. And so he gets separated from the group, and the rest of the group is just going along, and the rest of course they're underground in caverns, right? Because that's where you always are when you're dungeon crawling. And they're going across this huge, long, rickety bridge, this like wooden and rope bridge, and then he gets separated from them into this other room. And so I have this whole thing prepared about how to interact with him back and forth to get him to turn. And so he walks into the room, I describe it to him, I'm like, there's this sword on the wall, and there's wisps of smoke coming around it, and as you approach it, hear this voice whisper in your head, clearly not good, that says, if you take me, I will make you powerful, but you will have to turn on your friends. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, okay? He's like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, okay. And so the next scene, they're walking across the bridge, and these guys were all fantastic. They saw this happen in real life, right? But they know that they didn't see it with their characters. So they're going across this rickety bridge, and all of a sudden they turn around, and this guy's character is standing at the end of the rickety bridge with this humongous sword, and there's this look on his face, and this guy did the look really well. And they're like, hey! why aren't you coming? We're almost across. And then he's like, slice. 3 out of 5 of them died from that fall. And everybody loved it. And they're all plummeted to their death. Only 2 of them made their rolls to grab onto the ropes and actually land it. And then his character became an NPC that they battled later on. So there's moments like that where the characters won't be like, you killed my character, how dare you? And it's like, I didn't kill him, he killed him. He's the one that turned to it. Like when the players are just willing to let you take it and just do whatever you want with it, and they get invested in their characters, but they also, I found that the best way was to kind of remind them that, there's other cool characters they get to play too, but really it was just the group was really that good. So you get the right group and you can have fantastic role-playing moments. Same thing, and that's the same thing with gaming, with tabletop gaming. You get the right opponent, and you can get these really cool moments in the game as well. Role-playing brings those moments out a little bit more because obviously you're more immersed, but same idea. So it's all about the group. And of course, if your DM sucks, that's going to kind of ruin that, and maybe they won't want to give them control, but it was fun. All right, let me look at the time. Holy cow.
We'll do that.
Are you all right? You kind of. Oh, you've been snacking? Yeah. Okay. I got snacks here, but I haven't been eating them. So, we can do a couple more questions. We want to keep going?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do a couple more questions, then we'll finish. All right. Is there anybody who hasn't done a question? Have you done one yet?
Without the microphone. I just wanted to ask about some people you had in the studio, like Ash. What happened to them? They stopped doing videos.
Oh, Ash, the question he asked was, what happened with Ash?
Because his character was like very friendly.
Yeah.
They would like to see him from what I
No, it's basically, I can't go into too many details. He no longer works for Mini Wargaming. And that's really all I can say. I really can't go into more details than that. He no longer works for Mini Wargaming. We wish him all the best in everything he does. We have, unfortunately, when it comes to a business, you have people come and you have people go. We've had other people come and go too. That there's always going to be people who are sad to see them go, and sometimes it really can't go into any of the reasons.
Just didn't work out.
Yeah, it's unprofessional really for an employer to talk about why an employee leaves or is forced to leave a company. Now notice I put both those options there, so you don't know. Like basically, it would be up to Ash to talk about that if he wanted to. So that's unfortunately all I can say. Yeah, we'd love to have everybody that comes in just stay forever, but that's part of a business, is kind of getting employees and losing employees and getting new employees and all of that. So we'll see how we evolve over time. All right, where's the microphone? Do you have the microphone?
Hello.
All right.
In Fantasy recently we had the End Times, which kind of finished the storyline. How would you feel about if they did something like that in 40k? Which faction would win?
Fantasy needed it. Fantasy really needed it. It was kind of getting stale and boring and not selling. And that's the real thing. So they needed something drastic, and I think that was a great idea. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the release of the next edition of Fantasy. I'm looking forward to that, actually. 40k, it feels like they are giving themselves the option to do it, because you look at a lot of the latest codexes and they've been seeding things in there. Now they've kind of been seeding things in there forever, because it's an end time scenario all the time for 40k. But how would I feel? The problem with 40k is that you can't do to it what you did to Fantasy. You can't destroy the galaxy and then have it rebirth. Fantasy it's a fantasy environment, so you can just magic whatever you want. You can blow up a world and then have some sort of weird time travel thing, put it back together, or maybe it's going to float around in realms. There's all sorts of different rumors about what's going to happen next, and that works perfectly fine for Fantasy. But for 40k, you can't do that really. But I would be interested to see them advance the story, not end times the story, but advance it. I'd love to see the Emperor come back. I don't think that would break anything, honestly. They're already building all the other Forge World models for the other Primarchs, so why not the Emperor? Although I know all those ones are for the Horus Heresy Primarch models, so it'd be really cool to see that happen. So the Emperor come back, some Primarchs come back. The Harlequin book talks about the one book of Segurath. Yeah, in the Black Library, it's starting to open. So I wouldn't mind seeing Slaanesh get destroyed. It's okay if Slaanesh stays around, all right? But it would be kind of cool to see some of that unfold, because you could still have, like, for example, if they unfolded something where they did trick Slaanesh and then maybe capture her rather than destroy, or it, whatever it is, and so you could still have it in the game, because the one thing they don't want to do is make models not playable anymore. That is a bad idea. Bad marketing, bad business, bad everything. So everybody has to survive whatever happens. But what they would do with it can't be like the End Times, but it would be really cool if they majorly advanced the story. Like there's some major, like the Primarchs coming back, a new Eye of Terror campaign kind of thing. Whether they do it with the general audience, that's not what I'm talking. I just mean like something that's like big. It's a big deal that this is happening. Like and it would be a group of supplements and codex releases and new models and all of that. Maybe merging some other stuff. And I don't think they need any new races. They just got AdMech, but that's kind of was always there. They just didn't have the models for it. So have the Tyranids advance, have the Tau expand, have more Necrons awaken, have a couple new Orc Wogs that are really, really, really big. A new Eye of Terror kind of thing. Maybe a few of them all of a sudden open up and sends huge warp storms everywhere, and so there's more chaos, but not like End Times chaos, where it's like, hey, chaos wins, the end, and now we'll see what the Rebirth does. So I would like to see them advance it, but not End Times it. So somewhere in the middle, there's a happy medium there. And for goodness sakes, don't ruin the Tyranids. I am terrified that they're going to Zergify the Tyranids. That as they go in, all of a sudden there's going to be like this one giant organism that could talk to humans and get terrified by humans eventually. Like they did with the Borg in Star Trek, with the Queens. Like they did with the Zerg and the Overmind and the Cerebrits and then Kerrigan and everything else. Like, they're fun games. Star Trek is great. StarCraft 2 is fun. But they're no longer terrifying if they lose their totally alien nature. Like, there shouldn't be a thing controlling the Tyranids. That's my hope. It's just that they're just one big organism. There can be more to them, like advance it, maybe like something that's discovered about them, but just not something that's controlling them. I don't want it to be a chaos god. I don't want it to be an old one. I just want them to be what they are and just let them maybe become a bigger threat as they invade further.
How would you feel about one of the
Hold on a second, with the mic.
one of the Catan that escapes the galaxy, rather than being in control of them, shepherding them towards...
There's a difference between shepherding and controlling. Timeline-wise, now, bringing science into this game, timeline-wise it doesn't make sense. Because it takes a long time to get across galaxies. So the Tyranids would have to have been coming this way for a very long, long time. Now, the Catan's pretty old too, but really, that whole fight wasn't that long ago in the 40k lore. So, like the fight between the Necrons and the Eldar, that wasn't that long ago. When it comes to cosmology, or to like the size of the universe, that's a short period of time. So unless they're going to introduce ways for the Tyranids to travel really quickly between galaxies, which I'm fine with if they did that, because right now it's kind of they don't actually describe how the Tyranids travel. They've kind of talked about it, but then it doesn't remain consistent with whatever they say. They basically travel at the speed of story. They arrive when they need to arrive, and they leave and they're delayed when they need to be delayed. It's like transporters in Star Trek, right? They work when it doesn't matter. But as soon as they need to matter, it's like, oh, there's something in the way. But we can do this, which wouldn't make sense. Well, don't get me started on that. And so yeah, it could be a Catan shepherding them. That's fine. If somebody's like pushing them towards their galaxy, or they're running from a bigger threat, or they're drawn to the... I like the idea that they're drawn like flies to the Emperor's beacon, the Astronomicon. That's kind of cool.
They're running from something else.
That's cool. I like it. Yeah. So there's a bigger Tyranid race that's gobbling up the little Tyranids as they're trying to run away, and this is the smaller one. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities that I wouldn't mind seeing. I just don't want a Necron scale retconning. I like what they did to the Necrons, but they were boring before anyways. But I just don't want them to Necronify the Tyranids like they did with the Necrons, because that would just be heartbreaking, and I'd lose something that's very special to me. The only race in 40k that is truly neutral. All right, let's do another couple questions.
Would you like to see any of the races go into the Tyranid galaxy, the one that they actually already...
You mean like expand outside of the 40k
outside
galaxy?
Of the actual galaxy, maybe either go over there or learn more about where they actually come from, as opposed to just them being in our galaxy?
That would be interesting. I don't know how they would do it because, well, I guess they could do it if they want to do it, right? They can hand wave whatever they want to get to another galaxy. Find some conduit through the warp or a webway that gets to another galaxy. I guess it all depends on what they do with it. Because if the Tyranids truly are doing what they're doing, then it wouldn't be that much to see. Because if they've left a galaxy, then it's dead. It's totally consumed. Although I have a cool idea for how they can expand the Tyranids, which I've talked about in Sit and Talks before. That there's actually a second wave of Tyranids that eat the planets and the stars. So there's actually no longer a galaxy there. See, that'd be kind of cool. So, but I'm not the one that's writing them, so that's probably not going to happen. So I don't know how interesting it would be, but because if it's really been infested by Tyranids, then really it's all dead. Because the Tyranids don't leave anything interesting behind. They just kind of consume and move on. But the idea of just 40K in general reaching beyond this galaxy, I don't think it needs it. The galaxy's a big place, and really there's a lot of holes that the Imperium hasn't even been to. So there could be entire Tau civilizations just poised to strike as soon as a certain warp storm passes, or as soon as they're ready to reveal themselves because they're really super ultra powerful and they've kept themselves invisible this whole time. Like they can hand wave away tons of stuff within the galaxy. That's what I love about the 40K universe. As opposed to fantasy is great, but it has a restriction of just being one world, and there's not as many nooks and crannies in a single world. 40K, you can have an entire campaign happen in a sector, and that whole sector could fall into the warp, and it's just a blip on a larger scale. So it's just.
How do you know there isn't a highly intelligent Tyranid culture with, cities, people?
Oh, I hope there's not.
Culture, music, dance.
And these are just like the ones that have gone bad?
No, they're the good ones.
So maybe they actually, after they pass through, and you just don't see it because you're all dead, then they have a colonization wave that is actually highly intelligent and maybe still hive mindish, but still kind of build a culture around it. As long as you can't make them afraid of you, I'm okay with it. See, that's always the problem I've had, is that you have this terrifying enemy like the Borg or the Zerg, who are introduced as this faceless, you can't understand it because it's beyond what we experience. It's like finite versus infinite. We just can't grasp it. And so it's terrifying because the only way to win is to all out win. Because they don't care. They barely notice you as they destroy you. So if you throw in something that all of a sudden cares, then it loses, like something that can be reasoned with or, heaven forbid, allied with. Like we see with every other, like Zerg have been allied with everybody now. The Borg have been allied now. Like it's like we've lost all the good, truly neutral, and I mean by neutral, like they're just totally oblivious. They're just like, I'm just going to eat this food. Oh, this food's moving. Oh, I got it. Like, they just don't care. They actually don't care. So if all of a sudden you make them care, they lose a lot of that. We have enough species who are bad who care. That's why I like the Tyranids so much, because they fit that persona. So I don't want them to really have that, but it's not really in my control, so we'll see what happens. All right, one more question. Up to Sam, and then we'll finish.
Okay, so about the new Adeptus Mechanicus stuff, mainly the Skitarii and the Cult Mechanicus, like, what did you think of the overall, like the actual designs of the models themselves? For instance, like the Castan robots, like or as I like to call them,
the Iron Giants
of Death.
Okay.
But what did you think of them?
So basically, he's asking what I think about the new AdMech models and their look. I love them because 40K looked at War Machine and said, "Oh, the steampunk stuff looks so cool." But we're not steampunk. Wait a second. We can be, because it's 40K. We use wooden barrels because they believe in older stuff. So they should have wooden barrels because, they would have used wooden barrels in the age of growth. We believe in making everything look like muskets because they look cool. That's 40K's or Games Workshop's rule of thumb. Is not what makes sense, but what looks cool. And that's why we love it, because it looks cool. You plop it all down on the table, and it looks cool. Whereas you play other games for other reasons. They might not, like I play Infinity because it looks cool because of the terrain. The models they're good models, don't get me wrong, but you don't get that same sense of depth. And War Machine's the same thing. You have a very good tactical game of chess. The models don't measure up. Now, some people might disagree, it's a subjective thing, obviously. But you play it for the gameplay, whereas 40K I find I play it more because it has this flowing, just chaotic, throwing stuff at each other. There's strategy to it, and then there's luck, and there's imbalance, and then there's all these other things too. but overall you throw some awesome looking terrain on the table, and then you throw your models on the table, and it just looks cool. And so I love the look of the new Adeptus Mechanicus. Even the Iron Giant, even the guys in the tracks, that look like a...
I especially love like the antiquated look of the rifles, like
Yeah.
the galvanic rifles and the transuranical Quervuses.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a 41st millennium, I consider it like a 41st millennium equivalent of an elephant gun. So
Yeah.
it's really fun.
Yeah, no, I love the look of them. I think they are spot on with the look of the AdMech. Because it also contributes to the whole Dark Age feel of the game, where it's like, they're not using stuff that even we would have today. They're using stuff that's like 100 or 200 years old. So that kind of fits with the theme of fantasy in space is really what 40K is, as we all know. It's just, they took their fantasy game and they made a sci-fi equivalent, and it's kind of evolved from that. So yeah. Okay, well I think we've used enough time. We've gone 2 hours now. I'll take that. Thank you. So thank you very much for all your questions. Stay around for the Beatmap Bat Rep dance. If you want to. And thank you very much for coming. Happy wargaming.